Welcome to another episode of the Playful Lens. If you have ever wondered about the therapeutic powers of play, or indeed if you've wondered how play can support children's well-being in an experiential manner, then we think you're really going to enjoy this episode. We are so thrilled and excited to have Siobhán Prendiville with us. Siobhán, would you like to introduce yourself to our listeners?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Helena and Gillian, for having me on. I'm delighted to get to chat to you both. I am Siobhán Prendiville. I am a child and adolescent psychotherapist and play therapist. I'm a clinical supervisor, and I also kind of travel and present nationally and internationally all about play. So my main role, I am the MA course leader at the Children's Therapy Centre. CTC it is. So CTC is Ireland's longest and most established foremost provider of training in the field of play therapy and creative child and adolescent psychotherapy. So that's what I do, but I was also formerly a primary school teacher. So I taught at primary school level for over 10 years. So I love the mix of play and education and play and therapy. So yeah, that's me.
Okay, Siobhán, that is fair to say you've quite a lot of expertise in the area of
Well, yeah, play is my life.
It's your life. And Siobhán, if we were to pretend that we had the ears of all of the parents, teachers, SNAs, school leaders, anyone who works with children, in fact, what would you really wish everybody knew about play?
So much, but I suppose the key thing is just how powerful play is. And for me, coming from like an education background and also a therapy background, and as a parent, I think if everybody could just really value just how therapeutic play can be. So the therapeutic powers of play are very real. And what's actually really incredible, like play is therapeutic. That's why it is used in play therapy and creative psychotherapy. The therapeutic powers of play are the enzymes that are at work when children, teens, and their families come to therapy. And when children and teenagers and indeed families get to experience the therapeutic powers of play within that psychotherapy relationship, change happens. Children and teens can move towards much healthier and happier ways of being. They find their own happy way of being in this world. But actually, the amazing thing about the therapeutic powers of play is that they're not confined to working just in the therapy room. So actually, children and teenagers and us adults too can experience some of the therapeutic powers of play in any environment. And actually, school, like teachers, if teachers are listening, if educators are listening, a lot of children go to school most days of the week. So it's a really powerful place to be able to activate some of the therapeutic powers of play. Many children will never get to reach a therapy room, but actually lots of children go to school on a very regular basis. So if they could access some of the therapeutic powers of play within the school system, that would be amazing. Now, that's not me saying teachers need to become therapists. They're teachers. I'm not trying to say that teachers need to be therapists, but actually just knowing that being in teacher role and providing lots of really engaging play opportunities for children and being with children at play can actually enable some of the therapeutic powers of play to come to life in any environment. That can be in the home setting, anywhere, like anywhere at all. And the therapeutic powers of play can come to life. So yeah, just for everybody to know, I suppose, a little bit more about those wonderful therapeutic powers of play.
Amazing. Can you give us further insight into that, Siobhán? You're very clear that as teachers, we don't need to be therapists. So how can play be therapeutic? Child-led play is in our curriculum now. So help us understand how by a teacher facilitating play, we are supporting our children.
So, okay, firstly, I suppose it's just really important. That piece you've said, like that child-centered play is critically important. So it's not that we have to go and think, okay, what exactly do I have to set up here and how do I have to get the children to play? And I know teachers are doing wonderful with that now. Like there's so much more information around that. So having those really rich child-led play environments, allowing children to actually play in the ways that they want to, but then the role of the teacher is really critical. So it's not to think, okay, this is the children's playtime, so now this gives me a chance to maybe catch up on a bit of literacy with somebody else, or this is a chance for me to maybe read over those English essays or whatever it is. Now, I know we're all stuck for time, I get that, but actually us as teachers or as an SNA or as just a significant adult, wherever there are children, we have a really crucial and critical role that we can play when children are playing. And, it's just letting them know we're really interested in their play, that we value them and we value their play just as it is. So we don't have to be intrusive. So it's really non-intrusive responding. We can pay deep attention to children when they're playing. We can say what we see happening within them and within the play. And that's really signaling to them, wow, like I see you and I appreciate you just as you are, doing exactly what you want to do, no right or wrong. So it's not about praising the play or putting judgment on the play, just actually really simply saying what we see happening while children are playing can be really, really powerful. Now, again, that's obviously in a therapy setting where we have one therapist and one child. And it's very different to when we're in perhaps a classroom setting or an SET setting. So it's not that the teacher or SNA or other significant adult needs to be observing an individual's child's play all the time and saying what they're seeing all the time, because children really need time to play away from that adult eye as well. But when we know that we have a variety of different play resources available that enable children to engage in a variety of different types of play, we can actually be pretty confident that the children are going to engage in meaningful play for them, and that they will be able to for themselves access some of those wonderful therapeutic powers of play, like building their self-esteem, their self-regulation capacity, their stress management, their social skills. So many different things come through just in children playing themselves and with others.
That's really insightful, isn't it?
It is. And, it's so important. Like what you said there, it's not the time for correcting the copies. It's not the time for grabbing a child and doing a bit of literacy. That presence is so important. And as you say, Siobhán, we are all stuck for time, but to value the children in their play is just so important. And it's so eye-opening, isn't it? When you engage with the children and when you say what you see, as you said, and when you become part of their play, it's so eye-opening. You see things that you didn't realize. You go, oh, I didn't know that child was into whatever. Or, gosh, they're a bit more vocal than I thought they were. They're not as shy or as quiet. So it's so eye-opening for us to engage with the children like that.
And it's so interesting. I was facilitating a training yesterday for a school, and I modelled some of that, where I was the sports commentator and another teacher was playing. And I just did it for a minute or two, and I asked everyone, okay, so what was I doing as the teacher? And somebody said, you were doing nothing. And I was like, that's it. It can really look like I'm doing nothing. And somebody else said, you were very present. I said, that's the difference. They had my presence and my attention, and I was saying what I see. And I think it's really important to be aware of that, because it can look like that you're doing nothing.
Absolutely. And I actually, really, when we think about it, or if you get to experience that for yourself, what a gift to give to a child or anybody, like your undivided attention, saying what you see. When, again, there's no praise, there's no judgment. So it's not that what they're doing is great and amazing. It's simply saying what you're seeing, showing them in how you are with them, how interested you are, how curious you are in them and what they're doing, in naturally doing in play. Like, it's incredible, actually, the confidence boost that can give to children, because so often at home, in school, everywhere, they're supposed to do things in a certain way. Like, there's demands on them all of the time when we think of our little people, from the moment they get up, where it's like, get dressed, eat your breakfast, brush your teeth, brush your hair, get into the car, let's go to school, take out the school bag, do this, do that. Like, there's loads of things that they're constantly being asked to do. Whereas when we're allowing them to choose what they want to play with in the ways that they want to play, and then we're showing them, we're really interested in you and what you're doing, without taking the lead. It's not about asking them questions. Sometimes we can think we need to be asking them questions so as they think we're interested in what they're doing. But actually that can be well-meaning, but sometimes that can kind of intrude on what they're doing. They're like, I'm trying to play here, stop asking me questions.
Yeah, and as well as teachers, I think we feel we need to ask those questions because I have to get my bit of assessment in here now. We can store all that assessment until afterwards. You don't need to ask the questions to be getting your assessment, so I think that's a little bit of a mind shift we have to get as well.
I definitely think so. Like, coming from a teacher place myself, I know when I trained as a therapist, I was like, this is different, because I was so used to, when children were playing, saying things like, oh, and how many cars are there? And oh, that's the yellow car, and naming colours and asking little questions, or maybe throwing in the little bit of Irish into it, doing it informally, which is actually, like, that is using play as a methodology in many ways, but it's not free choice child-centered play. So there is a place for that. That could indeed be a literacy lesson in itself, but it wouldn't be free choice play. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what you said there about being with the children and valuing the children, that's especially powerful as well with older children, isn't it? Do we give that time to our older children, middle and senior classes, to sit with them and value their presence and let them know that they're valued? I think that's really important as well.
It definitely is. Like, play so often, I think, just gets lost as we go up the school. It's very much seen as something that is in the junior end of the school, and it really does taper off. But actually, like, children of all ages, us adults benefit. We can access therapeutic powers of play. Like, children in fourth, fifth, fifth and sixth class most definitely will benefit from more play and playful opportunities as well. And it's actually interesting, because the older I get and the older my own children get, I realize when I used to look at sixth class kids years ago when I was teaching, I thought they were like really old. Now I'm like, oh my God, my own daughter's in sixth class. They're really young. Like, they're still children. Give them opportunities to make slime or oobleck, to make squishy balloons, like, do that type of play with them. So still giving them, but even take out the sand tray. Take out sand trays and miniatures with fifth and sixth class kids, and they're going to have a ball. And actually, the amount of stories that can come to life through miniatures and sand and water thrown in, that could then form the basis for a later literacy story writing session, but they have actually gotten to play it out first. So yeah, I think really giving those play and playful opportunities as we move through the school is important. And I think for me, one thing that I see as well is a kind of a misconception of what play is. Like, we can maybe just think, when we think of play, we can think of younger children and play with maybe, building blocks, or whatever, the little toy cars and the doll's house. Again, they can be used across the ages too, but it's also thinking, what is play? It's about for the person. So what might be play for me could actually be dancing. It could be movement. It could be with scarves. Play for somebody else might be creative play through art materials, so that creative edge in it. So it's kind of opening, I suppose, our minds up to what play and playfulness is, and hopefully trying to bring more of play and playfulness into all of the different age groups across the school setting.
Brilliant. I'm going to go back, because I know play is your life, but you're a bit of a slime queen as well, Siobhán. I think it's fair to say. So help me understand. We're making slime in fifth and sixth class. I'm working with a small group. What therapeutic powers of play might children possibly access during that?
Okay, so one big one could be creative problem solving. So this is a therapeutic power of play, creative problem solving. You've made slime, I've made slime. It's kind of tricky at times, and you have to figure out just how much glue, how much activator, how much do I have to, like, fold it in, twist it, and then there's that moment of thinking, it's not going to work, it's failing. Then so you have to kind of problem solve, as you're working together. Also, if you're in a group making it, you could be problem solving together to figure out all of those various different things to get it to work. Okay. There is also another piece in slime making that I think is really powerful, because I've made it thousands of times. Started making slime probably over 15 years ago. So I've made it for years and years and years. And still, most times when I make it, I reach a point of thinking, this isn't going to work. But yet it always does. There's always a way to make it work. So we talk about perseverance. Like, think about children not giving up, sticking with something when it is hard. Like, that's incredible. And part of the reason children and teens can stick at it when it's hard is because the creation of it itself, for some, can be really regulating because it's a sensory experience in making it. So although it's testing us and maybe making us feel like, oh, this isn't going to work out, I'm not sure about this, we can be getting some body regulation on board through the creation of it, which enables us to actually stay at the slime making for longer and see it through to get to the part where it does actually come together. And then when it comes together, we can get this real competency surge of, I did it, I made it work. And here we have our esteem building really coming on board as well. So like, we're talking problem solving, we're talking regulation, we're talking esteem building, we're talking mastery, social competence. So lots of things all in there. Indirect, without us having to say, you really stuck at that when it was hard. Perhaps you could say that at the end, like, you really stuck at that when it was hard. Like, you can do hard things. There we have indirect teaching coming in again, another therapeutic power of play in giving language to them actually sticking it with it when it was difficult. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
it does. It does. And I remember we're making slime with you, and I remember that, oh, this isn't going to work, and the disappointment that it's not going to work out. And you were like, just keep going, stretch and fold, stretch and fold. And I did, and I did adapt and edit, but I can remember it really well, Siobhán, even though it was years ago. I remember the mess, and I remember you saying, but when you learn how to cope with mess on your skin, you're learning how to cope with mess in your life. And I just thought that was profound.
Absolutely. And there's so much, like, I could talk for an hour or 2 hours about possible therapeutic benefits of slime making. But what I'm going to be very super clear about here, and this is a key message to absolutely everybody. There is no one size fits all. There is no type of play that I can say will for definite do X or Y. For one child, creating slime may well bring a sense of mastery, may well increase their self-regulation capacity, may well bring positive emotions. For another, it may well be a slow form of torture. So therefore, I am not making you do it. Yeah. So I think it's really important to really recognize that. And this is a bit that I think some people can get confused with, but also maybe a bit frustrated with, because they want to know, like, how exactly, what can I do to help X, Y, or Z? Unfortunately, although I have studied play for very, 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 very many years, I cannot say that I can guarantee you that if you do X, Y will happen, because I don't know that particular child. I don't know the context. Does that make sense? And all have different reactions and responses. But I do know things like sensory play in general can be very regulating, but there's lots of different types of sensory play. But the slime in itself can open up so many different therapeutic powers of play. And like 5 children could be playing with slime together at the same time. And one of them could be experiencing self-regulation, for example. One of them could be having a cathartic release, which is another therapeutic power of play. Another one could be engaging in creative problem solving. It's kind of about the player's experience rather than me saying this is exactly what's going to happen. Does that make sense?
Yeah, makes perfect sense, because that's the big mindset shift I felt for me as a teacher, moving away from play being about the activity and what you're doing to play being about the experience and how individual that is. And it's like almost by looking at children's faces that you can gauge whether this is effective or not.
And that again is part of the real importance, that role. We can't overemphasize enough how important actually the teacher's role can be whilst children are playing, because you can learn so much about a child or a group of children just by observing and witnessing them at play, and more than you can learn from what they might just tell you with their words alone. Like another therapeutic power of play is self-expression. Like children express themselves through play. This is their language. So we can learn so much more about children by being with them at play. So yeah, hopefully that has answered the slide piece.
Yeah, but it's a great time in education to be a teacher. And we feel so strongly about this because it's, so often when there's something new, it's like, oh God, there's loads of upskilling. I've loads and loads to do here. Whereas the introduction of child play in our curriculum, it actually gives us time to sit and observe and really get to know the children. And you almost feel like you're dossing because you're not drilling a lesson, but we're doing loads.
But there's so much more that's happening in that time.
Yeah.
So much more. Like another therapeutic power of play, like there are 20 identified therapeutic powers of play. And this isn't just me saying these are therapeutic powers of play. Like the therapeutic powers of play were initially Dr. Charlie Schaefer and Athena Drews wrote about the 20 therapeutic powers of play. Well, a selection of authors wrote about them in their book, but they're all grounded in developmental theory, play theory, developmental research, play research that has gone on for years and years and years. And with the emergence of neuroscience and all of the neurobiology, that is actually now very much backing up lots that was already previously written about the therapeutic powers of play. So it's not like just, Siobhán Prendiville says there are 20 therapeutic powers of play. It's not me. Like this is backed up by the science and the research and also lots of the neurobiology now. But anyway, that was a long-winded way of getting to one of them. One of the identified therapeutic powers of play is accelerated psychological development. Now, shout it louder for those at the back who are in a teaching role. Accelerated psychological development. Play has the power to accelerate children's psychological development. And when you dig down into that, that covers cognitive development, that covers language, linguistic, that covers social, that covers emotional. So play accelerates children's development. We are teachers. We want to support and foster their development. Let's bring these things together.
Yeah. It's mad that play stops after the junior, or has been seen to stop after the junior classes. When you look at it like that, what could we accelerate for our middle to senior children?
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
And in such an overloaded curriculum, what better way to do it?
This is like, and I know that was one of the areas. So before I did my master's in psychotherapy, I actually did a master's in early childhood education. So after my primary BEd, I went and did a master's in early childhood education, and I was studying the benefits of play in education at that point in time. And what I did my dissertation study on was curricular links. Now, it's a while ago that I did it. It was even pre-Ashter days. But what I was really looking at it now was in the junior and senior classroom, infant classrooms, but what curricular benefits the children get from engaging in free play at the sand and water in the classroom. So I literally did like 50 observations of sand play and water play in infant classrooms, and then was noting what was happening, what were they learning and developing. It was total free choice play from them now. So there was no adult involvement in it. And what I did then was correlated what I saw happening and observing the learning that they were gaining from it to specific curricular objectives that were outlined in the curriculum. And it was mind-blowing to see the amount of curricular objectives that were met during those times of the children actually engaging over a period. So it wasn't about like you'd see it and just give it to them once, give them like 30 minutes of play at the sand and we can tick off that curricular objective. It was over continuous experiences of getting to engage in sand and water play. Now, I firmly believe that that's going to be true for any type of play that is provided, and actually in any of the age ranges. You will see it as you go up the school. There are loads of links to children's engagement in play and the curriculum. But that would be a good research study now to actually be able to dig down in children's engagement in play further up the school and link it to specific objectives. Because it does free us up as teachers then to be able to trust in the play.
Yeah. And I'm so glad you said that, because suppose one of our goals with this podcast is we want to expand our understanding of play. And when you talk about the sand and the water and linking it up to the curriculum objectives, that really needs a broad understanding of the curriculum, because as a teacher, I used to nearly default to literacy and numeracy and are they using language there? And I wasn't aware enough of like the SPHE and the relational, all of that that's happening. I just think that's so important to remind us all of that, you know, the curriculum is so broad. And when I'd imagine, Siobhán, really and truly, there's very little play that happens in a classroom that you could not push. You could not link up to some
100%.
curricular outcome. Even on the surface, it doesn't look like it.
There's so much that we can do through play that links into so many of the various different curricular areas, but it takes a big understanding, a keen understanding and awareness of play, the various developmental and therapeutic benefits of play, but it also takes confidence in ourselves, an ability to make autonomous decisions. It can be hard in a school system when you're tied to a curriculum and perhaps tied to a lot of, workbooks and the ways things have always been done, perhaps. It's really hard to break away from that. And it's hard to have confidence in something you haven't experienced for yourself. So if you haven't firsthand experienced like some of the powers of play for yourself, how can you truly believe in them? That's why, like Helena, when you come to CTC, we immerse our students in playing themselves so as that they can firsthand experience the power and benefits of play. Because really, to be able to believe in it and to go out and really do it, you have to have some experience of it. Now, you can get that experience of seeing and feeling how powerful it is for children when you provide the play experiences and you get those aha moments of, that's that, like, okay, they've learned that or they've experienced that. I had one, I remember when I was doing that little research project on the sand and the water play, I was observing a group of children playing at the sand pit. These were senior infant children. So they were playing at the sand pit and they started arguing. So they were getting stuck into it now because there was a group of 4 children and 2 of the children wanted to set up a bakery. They wanted to make cakes and different things at the sand. And 2 of the other children did not want to do that. They wanted to set up like soldiers and have like a war, an army base, and the soldiers were going to be coming in. So now the 2 and 2 here were getting quite argumentative and no, we're not doing it that way. And, things were getting quite touchy. I was actually in observer role rather than teacher role at the time. And I remember I reflected a lot on this afterwards, because I think if I had been purely in teacher role rather than observer role, I would have intervened. And I'm really glad that I didn't intervene because they actually worked it out themselves. Okay, so there was kind of this arguing back and forward. So then they were like, okay, well, we'll have this half of the sand pit. You're down there, we're up here. And then they were encroaching on each other's halves. So there was more kind of, arguments going on until eventually they came to a resolution. They decided themselves that they would set up a bakery, but they would make an army birthday cake for a boy's birthday party, and it would be decorated with all of the different soldiers and the army tanks that were in there. And the 4 of them got to it and played away together. I actually have little goosebumps thinking about that. It was phenomenal. So think of that creative problem solving. Think of the social competence that was happening there. Now look to your SPHE curriculum and think of the things that we're trying to teach children, about getting along together, conflict resolution. They did it themselves at a sandpit when an adult didn't come too quickly in to intervene, when it wasn't actually necessary for the adult to do that. But again, the play part of it perhaps helped them to stay somewhat regulated, and they wanted to come to a resolution. They wanted to make it work because they actually all wanted to do the playing.
Yeah, conflict, nearly learning how to navigate conflict is one of the big benefits of play. And Siobhán, in school now there's huge emphasis on teaching children skills, conflict resolution skills. Whereas what you described there, it's a different experience altogether, isn't it?
It's because they're experiencing it firsthand. They're doing it in the safety of play. It's the same like well-being. And I love the push on well-being. I'm all for well-being. I'm a psychotherapist. I love well-being. But I don't believe we learn well-being by doing worksheets and necessarily colouring in about well-being. Play actually gives us experiences of feeling well.
Yeah.
We can experience well-being. Positive emotions is another therapeutic power of play. We can experience positive emotions. We can feel well through play. Stress management is another therapeutic power of play. So we can actually manage stress. Regulate is another, self-regulation, another therapeutic power of play. We can experience stress management and self-regulation through play. Why not set up? And we really need deeper understanding and awareness about play and how to go about it and the resources, all of that. Obviously, it's massive. We need a massive investment in it all. But at the same time, you can do it with just having you, you know? So it's not that you have to have everything, you don't. It's kind of almost like a mindset shift that we need in seeing the value of it, I suppose. I don't want to turn anybody off thinking, oh, I can't do this because I don't have the play materials. You can do it. You have to, be all in and believe in it somewhat. Anyway, I'm gone off on a tangent. My point, I suppose, really is that when they can experience stress management, self-regulation, well-being through play, it's a first-hand experience of it. It's not just teach this piece, teach this piece, teach this piece. It's piecemeal. It's not cohesive, and it's not necessarily experiential. We really want children to experience these feelings.
Yeah.
And that sense of mastery helps to our overall well-being. And conflict, we can shy away from conflict. We can try and run over straight away. We see a little bit, apologize. We actually have to learn to resolve conflict by being engaged in it. And sometimes, again, it's the safety of play and playfulness that supports children and indeed teens and adults to work through things within the play. So yeah, I would be a firm advocate for playing more for well-being than perhaps writing about it or filling something in about it.
Something that struck me there when you're saying that about the well-being and the worksheets. If we're colouring in a lovely well-being worksheet, the child who finds colouring difficult is stressed. The child who has fine motor difficulties is stressed. They're not well. They're not being well. So by asking the children to do these tasks on quite an abstract concept is not actually helping them to feel well. So the child is going, I can't colour inside the lines here. I don't know what colour to use. I can't do all of this. My fingers hurt. My bum hurts from sitting on the chair. I'm uncomfortable. They're not being well. But by playing, they're moving, they're regulating, they're being well. So it's kind of nearly at odds with each other, isn't it? By asking them to colour in a worksheet.
Yeah, Siobhán and I have had a brilliant conversation about this before, and I'm going to quote you to yourself, Siobhán. Yeah. When children play, they experience well-being.
Yeah, they do.
And it makes perfect sense that, like, in fairness to teachers, boom, suddenly well-being, you need to start teaching well-being. Like, where do you start? So if somebody hands you a program, you're going to go, lovely, brilliant, I can follow this now, and I'm doing what is required of me. So that makes sense. But I feel like everything that you said there, so reassuring, just by letting children play. Look at all of the benefits that they have. And I equate it myself, but this is my own analogy. I equate it to basketball. And I feel like I'm saying to you, Siobhán, I have designed the best program ever for basketball. I have Michael Jordan giving us videos and tutorials about how to teach it. We have expert worksheets. It's really technical. Children are going to learn how to do it. They're going to understand it. But are they going to get to play basketball? Oh, no. God, no. Like, we're not going near the court. They're going to learn all about it. Like, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, absolutely. That is a brilliant analogy. And in play, they can experience feeling well. Well-being comes to life. And I think part of a piece, I suppose, with having a worksheet or a program, we have something to show at the end of it. And there's always, well, I know for me, that fear of, is an inspector going to walk in and have I got my plans and have I got my evidence of, it's a long time ago since I was in the classroom, but that piece of having to have your notes, having to have your evidence, If you have the worksheets all filed away or the program ticked off, we did unit 1, we're on to unit 2, it's an easy way of showing I have covered something. And perhaps play is not as easy to record and to show. It does not mean it's not as effective. It's actually more effective. And at the end of the day, like, what evidence do we need? Is actually a worksheet an evidence? Or is children engaging in conflict resolution whilst they're at play evidence? Or is the child taking themselves off to the squishy basket, the fidget basket, to squish at things when they start to get a bit het up? Evidence. That to me is evidence. So if I have perhaps a child in the classroom who has been struggling with maybe outbursts and managing emotion regulation, and we've been doing lots of sensory-based play, and maybe we have made slime and we've made oobleck and we've made lots of our own squishies and we've explored different textures, and that child is getting to start to know what cools my body down. And then I start to see, whoa, I've noticed when this little one starts to get agitated, what do they start to do? They start squeezing that squishy ball that's on their table instead of hitting the person next to them. Evidence of all, and that's real life evidence. This is working. This child is learning to manage. This child has actually started to be able to regulate. That's evidence more so than any worksheet to me. And it does, again, the play research is there. That is there. The evidence is there. It can be slower for us to see and accumulate what's happening for children than perhaps at the end of one particular lesson having a worksheet. But yeah, I think it's definitely, and then for me, like, I believe in school settings, I love free choice play as much as we possibly can, like so much free choice play. Then I believe in having play as a methodology when we're using play as the methodology in lessons that we're teaching, if that's SPHE, if that's literacy, if that's numeracy. And then I also believe in just having a playful teacher, a playful way of being, and that playfulness being at the center, the core of our classroom. Because then that's really putting play. Play isn't about a time of day. Play is there throughout it all. So it just becomes a playful space.
Yeah. So wonderful, isn't it? We had a guest on, Bernie Smith, and she says it's not about the product, it's about the process. And we had a lovely primary inspector on, Claire Reedy, and she said the absence of a worksheet does not mean the absence of learning. And that really stuck with me. Now, I'm not big on the worksheets, but that reassurance from the primary inspector to say the absence of a worksheet does not mean the absence of learning. And it's so important.
Yeah, and she would see, from listening to you there, she would say the evidence of learning is in everything that you outlined, Siobhán, the conflict resolution, being able to recognise, I need something here to regulate myself, all of that.
And from that learning was the academic learning, the curricular learning, the learning outcomes. You know, you can't learn your outcome if you aren't regulated.
No, and this brings us such a key point. Like Dr. Bruce Perry talks about that, reaching the learning brain. And I think this is critically important for all. I think this should be hung like around every school. To reach the learning brain, it starts with regulate, then we move to relate, and only then can we move to reason. So regulate, relate, reason. Reason is up here. That's the piece when we're thinking of those academic objectives. Down at the bottom is the regulation piece first. And actually, when I think, I love Dr. Bruce Perry's work, but when I think about that regulate, relate, reason, what I love is there's a play that can switch into each of those. So we can use play to regulate, we can use play to relate, and we can use play to reason. And that fits into my ideology, I suppose, around having that whole play-based and playful. So it's not just about playing, it's being playful, embedded across, you know, how we are, how our classrooms feel, because that feel can bring safety, which brings the regulation, which can support children then to build relationships with their teachers. And if we don't have relationships, that learning piece is like so hard.
And it's, you know, we had Dr. Joanna Fortune on before, and she was talking about constancy. so that when I'm your playful teacher and I have a really good relationship, and you've talked about this as well, Gillian, if you're misbehaving and I need to discipline you and I need to say, no, that's not okay. And because as teachers, that really is part of our role. I often say, I don't think Miss Honey would cut the mustard, because we have teaching and learning to do. But if I have that playful relationship with you, you're going to come along with me a lot faster and want to work with me and actually be able to go, oh yeah, I shouldn't have done that.
And I really find that it is your classroom management. That playfulness is classroom management. You know, you don't have to go in this old story of not smiling till Christmas, but you're not building relationships then, you know. And I just really feel like I've had other teachers ask me, but do you not just, they go mad? And I'm like, no, because that playfulness and that relationship is your classroom management. And then, like you say, if there's an issue, you can be like, come on, Helena, don't talk about it, and how can we sort this out? Whatever. It doesn't have to be the big battle anymore.
No, it really doesn't. And I just think, like, absolutely. And I know that old thing of, you know, not cracking the smile. The neuroscience tells us now it's really not okay. Like, it's really not okay for our children to go in to an environment where they're not being made to feel safe. They have to feel safe. And actually, our way of being sends those signals to children. Am I safe? Is this a safe space? The way we look, the way we bring a smile to our face, the way we crouch down to be at their level, the way we use our voice, our tone of voice, all of those things are what signal safety to children. And every child deserves and needs to feel safe in their classroom. And actually, when we can bring that safety and then that playfulness and build on relationships, of course, then we can do child-centered boundary setting limits and managing. I understand, of course, there have to be rules and boundaries. It's the same in family life. It's the same in classroom life. But actually, that really needs to be. And children deserve to feel safe. They deserve also to feel loved and appreciated and accepted for just who they are in the classroom. I think that really is critically important. And actually that is down to us and how we are and the environment that we create, again, across all age groups, from juniors right up to 6th class and into secondary school. It's so important. So yeah, I think that's a really key point there that you've raised.
Siobhán, that has just been a really interesting and insightful conversation. And hopefully there are teachers or parents or SNAs listening kind of going, okay, I can see a bit more value in play now, and just letting children play has a lot of benefits.
There's so honestly, and you don't have to know it all. You don't have to see it all. It doesn't have to make sense to you. Like, it's so funny because I teach all the time about play. Like I said, play is my life. Like, I have researched play for years. I play in my work. I teach about play. But like, sometimes when I look back on things that I might have done years ago with my new knowledge that I have now, I'm like, I didn't even know that back then. But you know what? It was still beneficial. So like, before I knew about like neurobiology and those links to play, like, I didn't know about that years ago, but the play still worked. Sometimes I look back and I realize now, with the lens that I have now, that's what was happening there. I didn't know it at the time. That's okay. And also, I think before we finish, another key message, and I think it's so important, like for anybody listening, like, we can only do at a time what we know. So like, I know different things now than I knew years ago in the classroom. I'm sure I would be very different today in the classroom than I was years ago. Everybody shifts and changes. So just because we've always done something one way doesn't mean it has to stay that way. We can change the way that we are. We can change the things that we do. And we definitely don't need to beat ourselves up about things that we might have done in the past when we didn't know better. Like, it's okay. Like, I didn't realize maybe it wasn't supposed to be done that way. That's okay. Move on with grace and think, okay, maybe I'll try this out. It might be a new way of doing it. So yeah, go gently.
That's a lovely message. Yeah, it's a lovely message.
Yeah. Okay, Siobhán, are you ready for your rapid fire questions?
Go for it.
What was your favourite thing to play with as a child?
No, I can't. You'd have me here all day. I love to play always. So yeah, I loved all kinds of play. Role play, I loved playing like superheroes. My mom used to make us costumes, homemade costumes. Myself and my brother would be playing superheroes. I loved playing like doctors and nurses with my granny. Also loved, yeah, Lego, building things, construction. Loved being outside, jumping in puddles, climbing trees. I just loved playing, basically.
Yeah. Well, your mom was a play therapist now, in fairness, so I'm sure there was a
Yes,
fair amount in your childhood.
yes, yeah, exactly.
If you had a stick to play with, Siobhán, what would it be?
It would definitely be a magic wand. Anything can be a wand, and I love magic.
Yeah.
And who nurtured, I think we know the answer, who nurtured or nurtures your playfulness?
My mum definitely nurtured and continues to nurture my playfulness 100%. But also all of the children that I have worked with over the years. I think back now, like I started teaching in 2004. I remember so vividly children that I taught back then and the play. We used to have amazing play. Like I've got a flashback right here. My very first year teaching, we were going on a bus trip and there was a little boy in my class and he was scared of going on buses. And my mom was helping out. Like you could in that day bring in whoever's going to volunteer for the day to go on the school trip. So my mom was there. I remember we set up in the classroom. We had all the chairs set up. We made a bus. We were playing at getting on the bus and going on the bus inside in the classroom before we went off on the trip. Like that little boy, I could see him. I know his name, his age, his mom, everything. They inspired me so much. All the children I've met along the way and in the therapy room nurtured me. And now the students that I teach at CTC, we've some crack playing in CTC. So yeah, that keeps me fueled up. I suppose it keeps me fueled up. I'm so passionate about the therapeutic powers of play because I have experienced them. I've witnessed others experience them and I get to do that on an ongoing basis. So it kind of, yeah, keeps me nurtured.
Fabulous. That's really lovely. And what is a playful habit that you have never grown out of? I think you have many, but what is one that you have never grown out of?
Blowing bubbles.
And what is a small joy that you look forward to every day, Siobhán?
Going into my kids' bedroom at night when they're asleep and saying, I love you forever. I love you for always. I love you no matter what. I do it every night and it fills me up.
Yeah,
I know.
so lovely, isn't it?
Yeah. And it's such a privilege. I feel like
yeah.
when your children are at home and you get to see them every morning and every night, that's
Yeah.
a dream.
And those little nighttime kisses when they're fast asleep, I love that as well. Yeah, it's so lovely. Yeah.
Yeah, and even if the day has been stressful, like it may have been such a stressful day and things like there's wobbly bits that always come. I feel like it's just whispering. It's like sleep talk for them. It's for me too. Like that key message at the end of the day. So yeah.
Gorgeous.
That's beautiful.
So Siobhán, you've given us loads of key messages, but I'll ask you for one last key message if you have one, and if you don't worry.
Okay. When things get tough, press pause and play on.
Brilliant.
That's gorgeous, Siobhán.
Oh, Siobhán, thank you so much. That was just a brilliant conversation.
Yeah, it really was. It really was. It was so interesting to hear you speak. Thank you.
No, you're so welcome. Thanks, ladies, for having me on and for chatting. I could ramble on, so I appreciate you listening and sharing, and it was really lovely to hear you both as well, so thank you.
We really hope that you enjoyed this episode and that you really take away key messages on the value of play, of being with children in their play, and the therapeutic powers of play. We're really grateful to Siobhán for giving her time to chat to us, and we really enjoyed this episode as well. As always, remember we love your feedback, so send us a message on Instagram or comment on the episode. And like, subscribe, and turn on notifications.